What's going on YouTube? My name is Martin, you're watching ThemeIsle, and in today's video I'm going to teach you how you can create and sell an online course using WordPress and a free plugin called Masterio. By the time you finish watching, you're not only going to know how to do it, you're also going to realize how extremely simple and easy it is to actually do. Now, the thing with creating and selling online courses is that it could go in a number of different directions depending on what your goals are and what your starting place is. Obviously, the top level goal is to create a course. But from there, it could go in any number of directions. I mean, you could do one course, you could do 10 courses. You could create your course and launch it for free, or you could monetize it and sell it. Perhaps you have a website already, perhaps you don't. So to keep things streamlined for the purposes of the tutorial, I'm going to show you how to do this, assuming that you have WordPress installed, but you haven't built your website yet. I'm also going to assume that you're going to be building one course and that you're going to want to monetize that course. Having said that, the plugin itself is extremely versatile, so you can use it to do all kinds of other things. But the point of the tutorial is to give you a base level understanding of how to use it, and you can kind of jump off from there and adapt it to suit your needs. If all that sounds good to you, let's get started. Okay, and here we are. So as I mentioned, I'm going to assume that you have WordPress installed, but that you haven't really built your website yet. If you have built your website already, feel free to fast forward through this step, but if you haven't, stick around because what I'm going to show you is an extremely fast way to get up and running with an online course website. So first, we're gonna go to Appearance, then we're going to click on Themes, then we're gonna go up here and click on Add Theme. We are going to search for Neve. Neve is right here. We're gonna click on Install. Wait a moment, and then click Activate. And you see right at the beginning, it'll tell you, let's get started with starter templates. So we're gonna agree to that. We do want to get started with templates. We're gonna click on Education here. And this will bring up a bunch of pre-built sites that are catered towards education. The two that I would recommend is the one that's called Online Course or the one that's called Coding School. I like Coding School a little bit better, so I'm gonna click on that one. Here you can upload a logo if you'd like, and that logo will go here where it says Coding School. It will also show up in your site visitor's browser tabs as the site icon. I'm going to leave it as the default because this is obviously just for tutorial purposes. Here you can choose your color palette. I kind of like this darker blue. I'm gonna go with that. You can also choose your font combinations. So I think I'll choose this one. Click Continue. Now, as you can see on this step, it already has Masterio bundled in, and that's because the whole purpose of the site is to create courses, right? So it's already going to bundle it in for you. Click Import Website, Start Import, and we're going to wait a few moments. Okay, now it's done. Here, if you'd like, you can say a little bit about yourself, or you can click Skip and view the site. So as you can see, this is a very clean, very professional looking website. It's super fast, and you can adapt it just by editing the pages to make it match the course content that you're going to be selling. So in this example, it's coding, so I'm going to stick with that just for the example's sake. But again, it's super easy to edit this and make it match your brand and your content. So for the next step, we're going to go back to our WordPress dashboard. Click here. Once you're back in the WordPress dashboard, it'll look similar to this. It might look a little bit different, but either way, you should see something similar to what you see on your screen right now. Now, one of the prompts you'll get on the top of the dashboard is from Masterio itself. It'll say 3 pages are missing, learn, account, checkout, missing required setup. And that's because those pages are not automatically installed as part of the Neve pre-built website that I loaded up. So that leaves you with 2 options. You can either click complete the onboarding process, which you see is recommended, or you can click here to automatically create the missing pages. I'm going to click complete the onboarding process. And this brings us to the setup wizard for Masterio. So we'll click get started. Business type, we're going to do individual, but of course, if you are doing it as a marketplace, or if your goal is to do a marketplace, you can always click this. We click next. How many courses do you plan to create? Again, we're going to do a single course for this tutorial. Do you want to install sample courses? We will click no for the tutorial. Will you offer paid courses? We are going to answer yes. How would you like to receive payments? Here you can choose from a number of different currencies. I'm going to keep it as US dollar for now. You can also choose to accept offline payments. You can activate PayPal and connect your PayPal email here, or Stripe. So you have all that information here. I'm going to leave everything off just to keep things simple for now. And then I'm going to click next again. And that brings us to the end of the setup wizard. So here you can just leave these checkboxes checked or unchecked if you'd like. It's up to you. It's just basically sharing diagnostic and usage data, which helps improve the plugin. And then the other one is to get security updates and other things. So it's up to you whether you want to leave those checked or unchecked. And we can proceed forward by clicking create new course. All right, and here is where all the fun starts. This is where we're going to create our course. So since I decided to keep the theme of the coding school from the Neve starter site, I'm going to make our course title Intro to HTML. Course description, I already had one prepared, so I'm just going to paste it in here. And you can see it gives the whole curriculum here. And then categories, we can choose HTML, CSS from here. Featured image, I'm not going to add one, but you can add one if you want for your course. Then when you're done with this section, click on next. And here's where we start adding sections. So let's do add new section. So here is where we create our sections. I'm going to do these based on the weeks that I put into the curriculum that I had listed here. You can see right here, course structure 8 weeks. So I'm basically going to make each section equivalent to the same week. So week 1 is going to be web fundamentals. Copy and paste it from here. Go back to the builder and paste it in here. We'll add that. All right, so now we've got 3 sections. So for each section, we'll begin with the first one. We want to add content. So let's click add new content. And here it lets you choose what type of content you'd like to add. So you can do text lesson, a video lesson, a live stream lesson, or a quiz. So I will start with a text lesson. And here we're going to put our lesson name. So again, we can go back to our course, and our first lesson for week 1 is going to be how the web works. So we can take that. Let's go back. What you want to do at this point is you want to save to draft if you're jumping back and forth like I did, so that you don't, lose what you paste in here or type in here. So we're going to save this to draft, and now we have it. You can see it, and you can go back into it by clicking the edit button. You can also preview it here. So let's go back into it. And now I'm going to put in the lesson description. So you see lesson 1.1, how the web works, and it's all here. Now click on update to save your changes. And the lesson has been updated. Okay, so I decided to fast forward a little bit here to show you what it looks like when you finish one entire part of a lesson. So as you can see, I essentially just repeated that process. I kept clicking add new content, and then I added all of the different sections. So all of these were just this right here, were the text lesson. And then for the last one, I added an assessment quiz, which is how the web works. So this is the quiz, which I'm going to show you in more detail. And that I added by clicking this right here, the quiz. So let's dive into the quiz for a second. I'm going to click on edit so you can see how it works. It's pretty self-explanatory. You just add your quiz name, then the description. I chose to put the instructions. I made it a multiple choice test, but you can also do true and false, and you can also do single choice answers. So yeah, I have 5 questions here. Let's add a new question just so you can see what the process is like. So we click add new question, and you can either create one from scratch, or you can add one from a question bank. If you create a question bank ahead of time, then you can add it from here. We're going to click add new question, and you see it pops up. It's untitled at the moment, so we click into the field. For question name, it's slightly misleading because that's just where you're going to write the actual question. So it's not really the question name so much as it is the actual question that you're going to be asking. And then you can also add bold, italics, or underline. You can make it a link. You can do all kinds of things here. I chose to bold my questions just to offset them from the answer choices, but of course you can do whatever you'd like. Question type is below that. The default set choice is true or false. If you click into it, again, you can choose single choice or multiple choice. You can also assign a point value to each question. So if you have some more difficult questions, you can give them a higher point value if you'd like. And then below the default answer choices are pre-filled or true or false because that matches the true or false question here. I like to just delete these unless of course you're doing a true or false question. But if you're doing, let's say multiple choice, I like to delete these, and then I just click add new answer, add new answer, add new answer, and then I have my 4 options. You can click into the option and just type something, right? Type, whatever. You basically type the answer choices here. Then whichever one is the correct answer, you're gonna click off this checkbox. So let's say number 2 is the correct answer. You'll just check it off here. And that's pretty much it. And you just click update. Now I'm not gonna add this because it's not a real question. So to delete it, you just click the trash can and that removes the question, which brings me back to my original 5. The next thing I want to show you is the settings. So we click on settings, and here you can assign the full point value of the test itself, which most tests are 100 points, but of course you can customize it and make it whatever you want. You can assign a passing grade. I made mine 80, but again, you can make that whatever you'd like. You can also set a time limit. So I set a time limit of 10 minutes, which for my 5-question quiz means that each question gets about 2 minutes. But that's just an example. You can do whatever you'd like. Reveal mode. So reveal mode is basically, it limits the quiz to a single attempt, and then the user gets all the correct answers after they submit. So they can see like what they got correct or what they got wrong. Otherwise, you can set the number of attempts. So you can do no limit or limit. I set my limit at 2. So if a person fails once, then they can try it one more time, but you can set it to whatever you'd like. And that is mostly it. So as you just saw, it is very straightforward and relatively easy to get started with creating your own course with Masterio. There are obviously other areas of the plugin that you can tweak and customize, but what I walked you through covers the majority of what you need to know to get started. With that said, there's still one last thing I'd like to show you before we wrap things up with how to accept payments for your courses. And that last thing is found here. So on the left-hand side, click on courses. This is going to show you all the courses that you have in your library. So the one we've been working on is Intro to HTML, which you see still as sitting here as a draft. We're going to click on edit, and then up here you have settings in this top menu. So we're going to click on settings, and this is basically everything that's going to show up on the screen where people are viewing the course when they're interested in signing up for it. So you have the instructor, which is at this point me. In the pro version of the plugin, you can add additional instructors. Then you can set the difficulty level. So I put it to beginner. You can put how long the course is going to take. You can set the cap for how many students you want to be able to enroll in the course. You can also make it no limit if you'd like. I set mine to 10 just for example's sake. You can also password protect the course. You can put a course end date if you want to put a sense of urgency on it. And then you can also allow students to retake the course if they'd like. And finally, at the bottom of this section is a nice feature called restrict content during quiz. I turned it on. It's up to you if you want to turn it on or not. But essentially what this does is it prevents your students from being able to access the learning material in the lessons while they're taking a quiz. And then if we go back up to the top and click on display on the left, this is where you can enable reviews. So after students take your course, they can leave you a review. And then pricing, this is where we set our pricing. So I made the course fee $30 and the sale price $20. And you can also set up a content drip system, which basically means that students can't access future lessons until they complete the lesson they're on. And then you can see what all this looks like on the front end by clicking preview. So as I just mentioned, all of the information that's on that settings screen shows up on this screen here where students go to sign up for the course. So here you can see the $30 that I set the price to and the $20 sale discount. And then you can see the difficulty level, beginner, you can see the course duration. Essentially all of that information that is on that backend settings is what ends up showing up here. Which brings us to the very last step, and that step is taking payment for your courses. So how do we accept payment? Let's go back to our left-hand side menu. Let's click on settings, and then on this page, scroll down to where it says payments. Now the payment screen is going to look a little bit different depending on what choices you made during the startup wizard. If you recall, earlier on, I did choose that we were going to do a paid course and not a free course but I left both Stripe and PayPal turned off. And the quirky thing about Masterio is that if you turn both of those off, or rather if you leave them off, PayPal still shows up. So you see PayPal is here. So if you want to use PayPal, you can absolutely use PayPal. However, if you leave Stripe turned off in the setup wizard, it does not show up here. I have no idea why, that's just how the plugin works. But don't be afraid, because you can still use Stripe. All you have to do is go to the dashboard on the top left. Then in the menu at the top of the screen, click on add-ons. And then here where it says search for add-ons, just start typing in Stripe and it'll come up right here. Then all you have to do is turn it on. Now it's on, you see add-on activated successfully. Then let's go back to where we were, which is settings and payments. And now you see Stripe is available at the bottom. So you have Stripe here. So you can use either Stripe or you can use PayPal, or if you'd like, let's go back again to add-ons. You also have other options. For example, WooCommerce is here, but because I don't have the WooCommerce plugin installed, it's not letting me do it. You see it says requires WooCommerce. But if you install the WooCommerce plugin, you can then toggle this on as well. And then there's also a premium option down here. I think it's called RazorPay, I believe. Yes, RazorPay. So if you upgrade to the pro version of Masterio, you can also turn on RazorPay. But regardless of which payment processor you end up choosing, whether it's Stripe or whether it's PayPal, the process is essentially the same. You basically just go through and fill out all the necessary fields. If you have a question about any of the fields, you can always hover over the question mark and you'll get the explanation of what that field is. And when you're all done, you scroll to the bottom, click on Save Setting, Settings Updated, and that will allow you to start taking payments. And that brings us to the end of the video, ladies and gentlemen. I hope you found that helpful. As you saw, it is very easy and straightforward to get started with creating and selling an online course using WordPress and Masterio. However, if you do get stuck on the process at any point, feel free to leave your question down below in the comments and I'll be glad to help you out. Other than that, please subscribe to the channel because there's more great content coming soon, and I will see you next time.